Hello guys, welcome back to another episode of Tiger Steve Tech, and happy Lunar New Year to everyone who celebrates. Today we're going to be looking at this HP Pavilion a1129n, which is an AMD system, but I have seen Pentium 4 versions of this machine before. Now, this machine doesn't work actually because the power supply doesn't work, and I know this because I've tried to turn it on and the little light on the back of the power supply doesn't actually turn on. So we're going to replace that power supply with a spare that I have around before we actually power on the system and test it. So let's start with what's on the outside of this machine, because unlike a lot of business desktops, this machine actually does have some media-specific ports, because after all, it is a media center PC. So on the front, we've got two optical drives. One of them, I believe, says it has LightScribe. So one of them is a LightScribe drive. This over here, we've got this card reader extension something inside a bay. And if we lower this door here, we've got two USB ports and a FireWire port. On the other side of the machine, we do have a PS2 keyboard and mouse port, composite video, which we don't really see on normal or usual business desktops, and S-video, which is another port that we usually see on like graphics cards and not built into the motherboard. Parallel and VGA ports, 4 USB ports, another FireWire port, which that's a lot of FireWire ports. This Ethernet port here, digital audio out, and line in, line out, and microphone ports. So this digital audio out is also a port that you don't really see on normal PCs, but this is a media center PC, so this would be used for like audio, digital audio out, as it says on here. Now on the bottom we've got this modem card, which like nobody actually uses, but because they don't build it into the motherboard, some manufacturers just put modem cards into their PCs. Now let's take a look inside this machine. So if we just take this single thumb screw off, we should be able to just slide the side panel off, and there we go. So we've got our CPU heatsink here, one of these like Cooler Master generic AMD heatsinks. We've got 3 DIMMs, which is kind of weird. We see here our ATI chipset, so that's probably what our integrated graphics are. They're probably ATI graphics. Our modem card, and heatsinks for the VRMs. Now otherwise, we do have this PCI Express port and 3 PCI ports, one of which is occupied by the modem card. And we do have SATA on this motherboard, which for a machine of this era isn't a given, so that's good, I guess. Now, what else is there? So we've got IDE for the optical drives. Let's take a look at what the memory is. So 2 of these memory sticks are actually Infineon 256 megabyte DDR400 DIMMs, and the third one is, I don't know how much capacity it is because it's not labeled. So now that we're done going over the hardware, let's take the power supply out, give the system a bit of cleaning, and see if it powers on after we are done. So now that I've swapped my power supply out, let's turn on this computer and see if it still works. Alright, we're getting status LEDs. Let's see if we can make it into the BIOS, or if it posts, yeah, let's see if we can make it into the BIOS. Alright, we made it into the BIOS. Now this is not the BIOS that we saw in the HP workstation, because this is actually probably a consumer BIOS. So they probably did use different ROMs for each system. Now we can go through the system date, which is surprisingly set to the right date. We do have language selection, although we don't get as many as we do in, for example, the workstation ones. And we do have our, I believe this is our hard drive. Is this smart support? I believe this is our hard drive. It's a Mac store. What else? There's not much that's interesting. So let's exit and see if this powers into an operating system. So I just had a reboot because the system did not detect the USB mouse and keyboard that I plugged in. So I'm gonna exit. So I had a reboot to plug in a PS2 mouse and keyboard. Let's wait for the system to load. So we've booted into Windows XP Media Center Edition, and we do get this nice theme that came with Media Center Edition. Now I'm gonna try to find some information on where this on this PC. So if we can go into the File Explorer, then we might be able to see system properties. It looks like we've got a bunch of removable disks, but that's probably just because of the card reader bay thing that I was talking about earlier. So that's probably the reason why. Now I can't see any of my windows in the taskbar, which is really weird. So yeah, that's strange. So we've got our Athlon 64 3400 plus at 984 megahertz, 1.37 gigs of RAM. Although I didn't mention this explicitly earlier, the mystery DIMM was 1 gigabyte in size. So we've got oops, where did that come from? Okay, so let's open up our Dropbox. Wow, that took a long time to load. So we've got our PC. Okay, so here's our graphics. Radeon Express 200. So that was what that chip in there was earlier. That chipset did contain the integrated graphics. We've got two CD-ROMs or DVD. We've got two DVD ROMs, and I can open one of them now. That's not opening. Oh well. We've got our FireWire controller, 1394 mouse, monitors, and our Athlon 64 3400 plus, which is a single core processor. I do not believe that this has any sort of simultaneous multi-threading. So I'm going to end the video here. I was planning to install a Linux distribution, but I could not get the system to boot from USB. So that sucked, and I can't do what I plan to do with this computer, which was do demonstrations on like usability, because it's really hard to do it with that old Windows XP install that barely still works and is just totally unresponsive at some times. So thank you guys for watching. I hope to see you in another episode of TigerSeed Tech. This is the first time that I tried to do a video in this style, and please let me know how I did. I mean, honestly, yeah, of course, there were some imperfections, but I mean, I hope I didn't do too bad. Anyway, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next episode of TigerSeed Tech.